Good day, viewers, and welcome to Reminiscences. We are today in the country house of Professor Justine Tseayo, just a little outside Jos. Professor Tseayo, for those of you who remember, was for a long time professor in the Ahmadu Bello University and the University of Jos. Now he's retired as Professor Emeritus at the Benue State University. He was one time Minister for Mines of Power under the government of General Obasanjo. And indeed he was the DG also of the National He was DG of National Institute. Indeed, at one time also he was DG of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Prof, welcome to Reminiscences, and as usual, we start with how you started life early, I believe in Boko, in Benue State.
Yes.
Can you let us know a little about that?
Yes, I grew up as a local boy in Boko, going to primary school there. I think I must have been at the age of 4, too young to be sent to school. But my grandmother insisted that I should go to school because she didn't want my father, who was then in the army in the Second World War, in Burma and in India, who said when he comes on leave, he was going to take me away with him to India. And my grandmother was afraid, so he took me to her relative, Mr. Taka Nachi, who was the father of jazz, the famous jazz Taka of UMBC, under the pretext that I was going to school. So I found myself at school at that age, very early, and I grew up in Boko. A very challenging time to be at school at that age. But I enjoyed being in Boko. I enjoyed being...
So you moved from the village to Boko, which is the main town?
Exactly. I went from the village in Wanune, where I was staying with my grandmother, to Boko, to school, to go to school. And that's where I was, going to primary school Boko. It was called Bayon Clan Primary School. It is now called Boko Central School.
So you studied, and then your secondary school was still in Benue State, right?
Yes. So from Boko Primary School, I became competent enough to be admitted to Benue Middle School, Kasinala, and that was in 1949. I went to Kasinala Middle School and was there for 5 years, and finished Benue Middle School, Middle 4 at that time. Every province in northern Nigeria had a middle school, and Benue had Kasinala Middle School. And they were very important schools in the north, and one was lucky to be accepted in those schools in those days.
Can you remember some of your classmates in that set?
My classmates...
There are so many famous Kasina.
Many of, yeah. I belong to the Old Boys Association called Kaoba, Kasinala Old Boys Association, here in Plateau. Those who went to Benue Middle School, and it eventually became secondary school. It's now called Kasinala Government College. My classmate that I remember very well, I think he died recently. The Emir of Nasarawa, Hassan, Ahmed Hassan, and Yakubu, and a couple of them all, they are no longer alive.
Yeah. Was Yakubu Danjuma perhaps the most famous Katsina Ala
Yeah.
graduate? Was he ahead of you there?
Yeah, Yakubu Danjuma was my junior. General T.Y. Danjuma was my junior. Only 1 year. Was ahead of him 1 year. And he's played a very prominent part in Katsina Old Boys Association and donated a lot of money to renovate the school and the library and things like that. He has done exceptionally very well for the school.
It seems you did most of your university studies abroad.
Yes.
How did this come about? Were you just lucky to get scholarship, or you are sort of able to sponsor it?
I think you are right to use that word lucky. I think it's God's providence for me to have applied to Ruskin College at Oxford and be accepted. And I had no money to even travel to Lagos from Kaduna, let alone go overseas. But Paul Unongo, the late Paul Unongo, who was then courting my sister, was working as social welfare assistant in Kaduna, where I also was working in Kaduna at the government printing press. He talked to his senior, Mr. Green, Douglas Green, a Canadian, and told him about my case. And the Canadian was so sympathetic and said, oh, that was something he could help. He needs to train people to become social welfare officers. And I have got this admission to study at Oxford University. And so he will help me to apply to Northern Nigeria Scholarship Board, where I did and was interviewed and was lucky to have got the scholarship that took me to Oxford University, where I did my diploma in public and social administration. When I finished that, I was accepted to read for a degree in psychology and philosophy at Bristol University. After that, I came back to Nigeria and was promoted social welfare officer. And I started a school for social welfare workers in Zaria. I was doing that. And then again, was lucky to receive another scholarship, this time from the British government, to study back again in UK. I did a postgraduate diploma at London University College London, postgraduate diploma. After I finished that, I became curious and wanted to study more, and then was accepted at Essex, University of Essex, to read for a master's degree in sociology. After I finished the master's degree, I was lucky to be accepted to read for a doctorate degree in sociology at the University of Sussex in Brighton.
So you moved from Essex to Sussex.
Yes, interesting. I moved from Essex to Sussex. And that's how I got a doctorate degree in sociology. And immediately, University of Ibadan recruited me as research fellow. One Professor Onitiri got me from UK and brought me back to Ibadan and gave me a job there. And Professor Ahmadu, who was Vice Chancellor, University of Ahmadu Bello, heard about me and said he was looking for northerners to populate Ahmadu Bello University. What am I doing in Ibadan? They already have many people. We don't have enough in the north. And that's how I ended up at Ahmadu Bello University as a lecturer in sociology.
How was your time in Ahmadu Bello? Was it a happy time? It looks like you had some tussle with some of the radical scholars there.
I enjoyed being at Ahmadu Bello University very much indeed, because I was perhaps the first northerner with that level of education in sociology in the Department of Sociology. And it didn't take long before I became acting head of Department of Sociology in Ahmadu Bello University. Although, yes, we had radical people like Patrick Wilmot, Yusuf Bala, and others who were really strong intellectual characters. I don't know whether I should call them Marxists or whatsoever. I don't want to use any label, but they were strong, and I didn't want to join that gang because I felt I was older than they were, and my outlook on life was different. I did not go to a full secondary education. Although when we finished from middle school, few middle schools were upgraded to secondary school. Bauchi was one of them, and some of us were selected to go to Bauchi. Some of my classmates went to Bauchi to complete full secondary. Some went to Katsina, some went to Kaba. I didn't go. I was selected, but I didn't go because my mother then said to me, well, then she will have to get married again because of poverty to look after my brothers and sisters. She didn't have the money. So I told her I wouldn't want her to do that. My grandmother says you shouldn't get married again. So I will look for a job. And then I came to Kaduna to look for a job.
So your differences with these radicals in ABU, was it because you tended towards more of the liberal school, the Western, and they saw you as a Western-trained scholar coming to meet indigenous, types like them?
Why? Frankly, I should have. The college at Oxford that I attended, Ruskin College, was a college that was famous for people like not Jomo Kenyatta, Tom Mboya of Kenya, who were really left-wing radicals. And I remember the professors at that college always talked to me about Tom Mboya and saw me as a future radical, Marxist, left-wing intellectual in Africa. But I didn't get to that level. I can't now rationalize why I refused to go to that extent. I was left-wing, all right, but never reactionary, never outright far left. I was perhaps middle of the left, not outright right.
So your movement to the University of Jos from Ahmadu Bello, has it got anything to do with this feeling that you are an outsider in this ABU tradition of radicalism?
No. Professor Gilbert Onoagluchi, who was appointed the first Vice Chancellor of University of Jos, the new University of Jos, created in 1975, asked after me that he was looking for people from Plateau and Benue, or the Middle Belt, sort of, who will help him to build a new university. And that if I'm interested, I should apply. So I felt, well, why not? So I just applied. And I was assessed by international scholars who said that, yes, I was competent to be promoted professor. So I was promoted professor, and I came to Jos. Maybe it's the attraction to become professor at that early age that pushed me to come to Jos. Otherwise, I loved being at ABU and working with Professor Tseayo and Isa Mohammed and this and that and Patrick and a number of them. The registrar, Michael Angulu, we used to meet at the club, and it was a jolly sort of gathering of young northern intellectuals. We enjoyed it.
So here you were then the first TIV professor.
Yes.
Did this give you some kind of leverage politically? You know, did it make you prominent beyond the university?
I don't know. I wasn't even interested in going into politics. I just was so keen because I didn't think I was good enough to be an academician. Because secondary school, as I told you, I finished at Benue Middle School. I did GCEs and all those by private tuition as I was working in Kaduna and Bauchi provincial office as a third class clerk. I was taking correspondence tuition and taking examinations and passing them. But I didn't think I was good enough to be an intellectual. And when I was being moved like that, I just felt so excited, so happy. But then government kept appointing me, calling me, like the Constituent Assembly of 1977. I was nominated, about 2 of us, myself and one professor of medicine from Lagos University, to represent the university at the Constituent Assembly in 1977. And when I finished from there, I was again called back by government and appointed a Minister of Mines and Power. So I was being appointed. Politics, I didn't think I had the know-how to lie about, to tell people things that I knew were not right, but to lie and things like that. I didn't think I was that.
But did it affect your stature in Tivland among your people? When I say politics, I'm talking also of the community-based type.
Many Tiv people heard about me, but they did not see me. I was all the time in Ibadan University, Ahmadu Bello University, Jos University. Never worked in Tivland, but they heard about me and felt very pleased, very proud about me. I remember meeting one priest who said, each time we hear that somebody is professor, we ask, is it that type of Tseayo professor? And if they said no, then we know it's not real professor. So I thought, I now realize how high how regarded they saw me. And so maybe that may be the case. But I remained me, a young man from poor family, level-headed and humble and not wanting to be what I didn't think I was.
Yeah. But yet you were climbing the ladder even at the University of Jos.
Yes.
You became quickly head of department, the dean.
Yes.
But never the vice chancellor.
Never.
The vice chancellor.
No. It's interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. Actually, I was appointed, or shall I say, anointed as Vice Chancellor of the University of Maiduguri. And I happen to know this because the professor, the Calabar chap, I've forgotten his name, who was first Vice Chancellor.
Of Maiduguri.
Yes, of Maiduguri.
Before Jibril Aminu.
Yes,
Yeah.
before Jibril Aminu.
Okay.
He told me that I was going to replace him. Then Aminu, who was on sabbatical in America, came back. He was then secretary to NUC in Lagos. Before he came, he went on sabbatical. Then he came back and knew what to do. And he did what he knew to do and became the vice chancellor instead of me. But it didn't bother me. I didn't hold a grudge. I like Jibril. We know each other very well. We respect each other. And so I miss that. But in Jos, as it was a new university, I was head of sociology, professor of sociology, head of sociology, dean of arts and social sciences, dean of law, dean of marketing, dean of, I was 5 deans.
At different times.
At the same time.
At the same time.
It's a new university, there were not people. So I had to start those departments. And why that happened was that I went about recruiting professors for those faculties that I was dean of abroad. I went about recruiting people, interviewing people. So as head of sociology and whatever, I spent most of the time talking to contractors to build university buildings, halls, classes, and supplying of materials to the university. I was so busy traveling and doing these things, and that's what I was. And then at the same time, I was deputy to the vice chancellor, and that's the highest I went, deputy to the vice chancellor.
At Jos.
Of Jos.
At another point of your career, you were in NIPSS as the DG. Now, was that a challenging job, or was it sort of kind of relaxed thing that professors are given to while away time?
It was a very, very challenging job that the president, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, appointed me to that. Initially, he told me he wanted me to be deputy secretary to the federal government, to Makaman Nupe, Shehu Musa. But Shehu Musa advised him that I should take over from General Ogundeko, a position that they were going to treat me as vice chancellor equivalent. That's what at National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. So that's what they did and sent me there. And I thought it was a challenging position. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a position that strategic. Policy, I knew about policy. Strategic is something that is necessary for the survival of Nigeria. Something that is strategic for the survival for Nigeria. And that if we don't do, Nigeria fails. And I thought this was good for me to talk to top Nigerians, military, Air Force, Army, Navy, permanent secretaries, university professors, and the rest of them as to what we will do. I enjoyed doing it, but after a few years, I found government was not paying much attention to what we were doing there. It was like another university. We just did brainstorming, research, papers, special papers by top people who knew about Nigeria. Nigeria's economy, Nigeria's security, Nigeria's intelligence. This is what the materials we were handling. And I thought government would be very interested, but government was more interested in the fanfare at the end of the year, the meetings we made and the generals and whatever came. Oh, I felt so sad that they didn't take us seriously enough. And when I traveled around the world and I found few similar institutions were regarded very, very highly by the governments of their countries. And you will not even just go in there, in and out as you like. They were security conscious. Here, it's like they treated it like another university, which is sad. And the people who passed through there, MNI, I designed that MNI, member of the National Institute. They were just using it as something to get higher. Decorative. And I felt so sad. I think it's still like that. Maybe they've changed, I don't know.
Viewers, we will pause at this point in our conversation with Professor Tseayo to take a break and resume shortly. Welcome back to our session of Reminiscences with Professor Justine Tseayo. We stopped at the point where he was the DG of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. I think, Prof, you are now a kind of retired professor. You answer the title Professor Emeritus of Benue State University. Now, I have two questions on this. Does it mean you are now totally disengaged from the University of Jos? And what do Professor of Emeritus do, really, in practice?
Well, Emeritus Professor, generally, you are invited to come and give a lecture once in a while. In Nigeria, because of the problem of ASU's strike, you hardly have the opportunity to do that. But that's that. I'm also, yes, finished from Jos University. I'm finished from Iyorbee University. It's surprising that the University of Sussex, Professor Peter Lloyd, who was my teacher, supervised my PhD degree, retired there 15 years. His mail post, his mailbox post is still there. He collects mail. I once received a letter from Jos University. On it was written, no longer at this address. And I had just retired about 3 years when that happened. And so now I have to have my own mailbox from post office.
So you are disconnected from the university,
yes,
where you spend most
that's
of
how they see it. In Nigeria, it's a shame. I'm living in Jos, although I come from Benue, but I'm living in Jos. I vote in Jos. I do everything in Jos. I pay my taxes in Jos. So university feels I'm no longer their own. My pension comes from the university. So why? But this is Nigeria, I think. I can't give a reason why. I should have a mailbox there until I'm dead.
Yes. Will you also have love to be giving occasional lectures?
Exactly. They can call me, come on. We've got PhD students. Can you supervise them for us? You know, pay me little if they want, and I will accept. But they don't do it. This is Nigeria. But in Ibadan, it's different. The professors at Ibadan University, Mabugunja and the rest of them, until they died, they still have connection with the university. Only up here, I think, nobody cares.
So what do retired professors do, like in your own case?
What I do most of the time, really, is gardening, and I do a lot of reading, and I try to keep very, very, very close with God, my Creator, because I feel I don't know when I'll go home. Home means heaven.
Yes.
So I keep close to my Creator. I do these three things very, very deeply. Gardening, reading, and keeping close with my Creator, God. Religious affairs.
But is that enough to keep you
No, it's not enough.
in bread and butter?
No, it's not enough. My pension is very small, very small. So I just manage and live on the goodwill of friends. The national chairman of PDP, Dr. Senator Tseayo, has been very kind. He supports me. Many of my bills, which I have not been able to pay, he paid them for me. But he's not the only one.
He's
I
your
have
former
had many
student in his own case.
people who passed through me, yes.
Yeah.
He was my student at ABU. I brought him to Jos as my research assistant, graduate assistant, and sent him off to UK to do his doctorate. But he's the only one, very kind, very compassionate, who takes care of me, helps me with my bills. I'm grateful to him. May God provide more for him.
You are 86?
I'm 86.
Yes.
I was born in 1937.
So if somebody is a great age like 86, is it the tendency to start thinking that, look, I'm in this world, but I don't know when it will be over? Is it something that sort of becomes a preoccupation, or is it something that you just take for granted?
Very good question. It is my preoccupation. I'm in this world, I say, but I don't know when it will be over. So why not get ready so that if it is over today, yes, I'm ready. If it is over tomorrow, next year, 10 years' time. My mother, I buried my mother when she was 100 years old. I buried my father when he was 98 years old. So I don't know. Maybe I have inherited the gene of longevity. I don't know, but I'm ready.
But it looks so to me. I mean, nobody will believe.
That I'm
honest,
86.
that you're 86.
Yeah, well,
You look strong. You have just climbed the stairs and all that.
I do things.
So is this like you say genes, or are there things you
I
do?
think it's gene.
Yeah,
For me, it's purely gene, and
Yes.
God has
Yes.
decided that I should stay this long
around.
for reasons, for His pleasure.
So you eat your normal pounded yam and all without the heavy.
I remember my doctor recently said to me, I should change my lifestyle. So I said, what do you mean? He said, eat more vegetables and things. So I said, well, I still eat raw meat, cow meat, and as they call it, red meat, fish and chips, and pounded yam. I eat those. I do a lot of walking. I walk a lot.
You have a large.
I have a large
compound.
area. I walk and try to keep comfortable with my health. But Whenever I'm wanted home, I'll go home.
A lot of your friends, classmates are...
Many of my classmates are no longer. So sometimes I wonder whether I'm overstaying my...
86 is still fairly young these days.
Yes. I don't feel the age. This is the thing with me. I tell people, I know I'm 86, but I don't feel 86. I still feel like when I was in secondary school.
Do you then feel underutilized? I mean, do you feel
Yes.
that
Yes.
the government of the day can call upon you to do more?
I feel thoroughly underutilized. I think I will do a lot more than otherwise. I think I'm underutilized. I feel so.
Why do you think people like you are ignored? You know, people who have the knowledge and the experience.
Yeah, that's a good question. I used to ponder quite a lot on that question, that I am ignored, I am rejected. But then, of recent, I guess, is being close to my Creator, God, that I think I know why. I did not pay much attention to being close to God, being godly, being righteous. But since I've been ignored, I think it's deliberate that I should be ignored. It has helped me a lot to be closer to God. And being closer to God has made me, I think, a much better person than when I was so preoccupied with work, government work, and things like that, that I paid very little attention. A man is two parts, the flesh, which belongs to this world, and the spirit, which belongs to the higher world. I think I paid more attention to my flesh, the needs of my flesh, being in the world. Now I'm in the world, but not of the world. And I think it's because of this time that I have had for many years for myself that I have learned to be like this, and it has helped me. I thank my enemies. They are no longer my enemies, they are my friends.
For ignoring you.
For ignoring me. I thank them for if they hadn't ignored me, I would still be enjoying myself and forget that one day I'll face judgment.
How is family life for you, Prof?
My family is fine. I have second marriage. My first wife, I'm sitting here and looking at the cemetery. Our children, 3 boys, they are all married. They all studied in the UK. They are all living in the UK. And they keep in touch regularly. And I'm very happy. Now, the new marriage I have good companion. She's very strong on the spiritual side. And that has helped to keep me on the straight and narrow.
Thank you, Prof. I hope you remain on the straight and narrow, and you have a long life still ahead of you. Viewers, thank you for joining us in this program with Professor Justine Tseayo, and I hope you have learned something just like I also did. Until we meet again, goodbye.